thinking about things. Well, you do when you're on your own all day, don't you? Nothing worth watching on telly. So I was just sitting here thinking. When I look back, I've been lucky all my life. Well, of course, I've had some sad times, felt the pain of sorrow every now and then. Well, haven't we all? But I've also had more than my fair share of happy times. Good days, with lots of love and laughter. Oh yes, lots of laughter. It's important that, isn't it? My mum was always laughing at something or another. Funny how you remember things like that. When I lost my mum, I missed her terribly. And then Dad died just a short year after. He just couldn't manage to carry on without her. I think men are a bit like that, don't you? They don't seem to be able to cope somehow. Well, now that was just after I had my Anthony. That's my son, Anthony, you know. But we've always called him Anthony. So at least they were able to hold their grandson and got to play with him, if only for a short while. I don't know. It seems when your parents go, that's when you really grow up. Something to do with being on your own, I suppose. No one to fall back on anymore. Good to me they were, my mum and dad. And my dad adored my mum. So I grew up in a happy home. Dad was an engineer on the railway. I think he must have earned good money, because we never went short of anything. I think I mentioned that my mum loved to laugh, always laughing. I can still hear her now. Yes, oh, happy days. I remember once my mum cooked a pie for my dad's lunch, and she put it on the open windowsill to cool. Well, Dad came home a few minutes early, saw the pie, took it, and hid it in the garden shed. Then he came in and said to Mum, "Where's me dinner, Maud? I'm starving." Well, when she noticed the pie had gone, she yelled out, "Some buggers pinched my pie." Well, Dad kept a straight face for a minute or two, started to giggle, and then went and got it. When she saw what he had done, she shouted at him, "You daft, useless lump!" And then she burst out laughing. That's how they were, always joking. Oh, I do miss them. Well, no sense in getting all dewy-eyed. It's about time I made myself a nice cup of tea. It's been nice talking to you. What's that? Do I need anything? Oh, no, thank you. Well, it's kind of you to ask, but no, don't worry about me. I'll be all right. Oh, I've just seen my window cleaner coming down the road. Every 6 weeks, regular he comes. Oh, he's such a lovely lad, and such a good worker too. Well, first he does all the outsides, and then he comes in and does all the insides. I always make him a nice cup of tea and give him some biscuits when he comes in. So he has a bit of time, and we have a chat. Stanislav is his name, but I call him Stan. He likes that. He says he comes from the EU, wherever that is. One of them EU immigrants they keep on about. Anyway, we talk about this and that. Oh, and he really makes my day. He reminds me a bit of my Anthony. About the same age, I reckon. But I wish my Anthony was as caring as Stan. He used to be, until after my Ted passed on. And then he met this girl, and she sort of took him over. I never did take to her, and she certainly didn't like me. A right common little hussy. Her name's Cynthia, but she prefers to be called Sin. Very appropriate, I think. Anyway, they got married and moved up north, but she definitely rules the roost. They got married in a registry office somewhere near Manchester. My auntie said it was too far for me to go, but it was her really. Didn't want me there. So I never saw him get married. They haven't got any kids yet, so I wonder if I will ever be a grandma. Oh, I'm really like that. Well, he does phone me every week, but it's not the same as seeing him. Ooh, it must be nearly 6 months since he came down with her, but she couldn't wait to get away. Do you know, she's never called me Mum, always by my Christian name, Alice, or just Mrs. Roberts. Sad that, isn't it? I've told Stan all this, and he says he can't understand because he reckons family is important. He's got a wife and 2 kids. They came over from EU with him. He's very proud of them. Oh, and so pleased that they now go to a proper English school. Good luck to them, I say. After he's finished his tea, he always says to me, well, I must be off now. Lots more windows to do. But before I go, is there anything I can get you or anything you need? So I says to him, oh, thanks for asking, Stan, but no, don't worry about me. I'll be all right. Have I told you about my Ted? Married 53 years we were. Yeah, 53 years. That's a long time, isn't it? We had a bit of a do for our golden wedding. Lovely it was. All the family came to our house, and in the evening we went to a posh restaurant in town. Oh, and had a lovely meal. 28 of us there were. Afterwards, we came back to the house. The neighbours came in, and we had a bit of a knees up. Oh, what a to-do. Oh, that seems ages ago now. My Anthony arranged it all for us. He's good at things like that. Well, he was anyway, but that's before he met her. Ted asked me what I'd like for our 50th, so I said I didn't need anything because I've got you, and that's all I want. Anyway, on the morning of our anniversary, he gave me a tiny little package, and inside was a gold coin he's made in the shape of an old halfpenny. Oh, what's this? I asked him, and he said with a big grin on his face, well, Alice, 50 years ago today you gave me your halfpenny, and now I'm giving it back with interest. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What a lovely man. After the war, Ted worked for the bank all his life, finally becoming an area manager, looking after several branches. But when all the mergers came about, he lost heart a bit. Oh, it's a young man's game now, Alice, he said. I'm too old to start again. Anyway, they offered him redundancy and told him he could negotiate his own leaving package. And very generous they were too. A good lump sum and full pension from the day he retired. So we had enough money to enjoy life without having to worry. We bought this nice little detached house 20 years or so ago. So with some of the money, we paid off the mortgage and managed to live very comfortably. There was a nice little garden at the back, and Ted loved pottering about. But his special interest was his roses, all sorts, but he really loved a beautiful white rose called Virgo. Spent hours there, he did. Sometimes, I said to him, I think you love that rose more than you love me. He said, don't talk daft. I could never love anything more than I love you. 3 years after our 50th, he had a heart attack. Out in the garden it was. We got him to hospital as soon as we could, but the damage was done. The doctor said he didn't think he would pull through. I sat with him all night. At about 6 in the morning, he opened his eyes, saw me there and whispered, "Oh, I love you, Alice. Thanks for everything." "I love you too," I said. After a couple of minutes, he said, "I'm a bit tired now, love. I think I'll just have a little nap." And he closed his eyes and just drifted peacefully away. The ward sister came and I said, "Has he gone?" And she put her arms around me and said, "Yes, love. I'm so sorry. You just sit here for a while. This is your time now." And she left me alone with him. After a while, my Anthony came and sat with me for a bit, and then he led me away. As we left the room, I looked back, and Ted looked so peaceful just lying there. We went back to the house. You know, I can't really remember much about that week until the funeral. It all seemed so unreal somehow. My Anthony made all the arrangements for me. We were never religious, so we gave him what they call a humanist funeral. Very nice it was, and I know Ted would have approved. On that morning, I told my Anthony that I wanted to see Dad one last time on my own. I cut one of his special white roses from out of the garden, and when I arrived at the funeral parlour, they showed me into a room, and there was Ted in his coffin. I looked at him for a while, and then put the rose on his chest. Well, I know he didn't really, but I could swear he smiled. As I left, I whispered to him, "Don't worry about me, love. I'll be all right." Well, after it was all over and everybody had left, my auntie and I went back to the house. He stayed with me for a few days, and then, of course, he had to leave. Well, I realised he had his own life to lead. So he went back up north to her, and there I was, finally on my own. That's when it really hit me. Oh, but enough of that. We just have to get on and deal with life as it is. And as for grieving, well, I'll do that in private, on my own. A few months after, I had a little medical problem, which required some minor surgery. Well, you know how it is. You keep putting off going to the doctor, but in the end you have to have it seen to. So the doctor referred me to a surgeon at the same hospital that looked after Ted. Oh, he was a lovely chap, about 40, I reckon, very smart, and he explained to me about what he called the procedure. Anyway, I went in, and on the day he asked me if I would mind if 5 of his students could observe. So I said, well, no, of course not. Well, there I was, lying on my back with everything on show, and these students, 3 boys and 2 girls, looking at me. So embarrassing. Suddenly, It occurred to me how absurd the situation was, and I couldn't help it, but I started to laugh. One of the girls giggled, and then they all started. Well, and it just got out of hand. I was laughing so much, you'll never guess what happened. Yes, it did. Right there, in front of everybody. Oh, I couldn't help it. In the end, everyone was helpless, even the surgeon. How he managed to finish what he was doing, I'll never know. Anyway, I digress. I'm telling you all about this because while I was in the hospital, I met another lady who, like me, lost her husband about a year before I lost Ted. She was telling me that she had sold the house that they had lived in and she bought a retirement apartment down on the coast. Oh, she was very happy there. It got me thinking. So I talked to my Anthony about it and he thought it was a good idea. I saw an advert for a new retirement development in Rustington near Littlehampton and we went to see it. Oh, lovely it was. 2 bedrooms, lounge and kitchen, all on the first floor with my own front door. There was a communal area downstairs, beautiful gardens, and best of all, a sea view. Oh, I'd always wanted a sea view. Well, my Anthony came with me to Ted's bank and they handled everything for me. Sold the house, arranged all the finance and legal matters, and I moved in here 2 months later. Oh, did I mention it's got a 99-year lease? Just how old do they think I'm going to get? So here I am, been here nearly a year now and loving it. We've got a nice lady warden called Rosemary who looks after us and arranges things. She pops in from time to see if I need anything. And I always tell her, oh, no thanks, love. Don't worry about me. I'll be all right. There's this chap that lives on the ground floor. His name's Reggie. A couple of years older than me, I reckon. But he's still got that sparkle in his eyes. Do you know what I mean? Oh, he's quite a character. Always up to mischief of some sort or another. Oh, and we get on fine. He's got a little car. We go out for a ride some afternoons. Or just down the coast or maybe to Brighton for a look round the shops. He's a proper gentleman. Always helps me in and out of the car. Oh, I do enjoy his company. Sometimes I cook lunch and Reggie and another couple come in and afterwards we play some cards. I really feel at home here. About 3 months ago, the local college in Littlehampton asked if some of their sixth form students could visit us. It seems they were working on a project about the 50s and 60s in England, and they thought it would be a good idea if they could come and talk to us. Well, 8 of us agreed to take part, and the college suggested we all sat at separate tables so the students could spend some time with each of us. Like speed dating, they said. Whatever that is. Anyway, whatever it was a really interesting afternoon. One of the students, a pretty girl called Alice, same name as me, seemed to take a shine to Reggie and me and asked if she could come and see us again. Well, yes, of course, we said. and now she calls in regularly. Oh, and I must say I look forward to her visits. She's a very bright kid, and she wants to be a doctor, so she's working very hard for her A-levels. And then on to uni, as she calls it. Oh, I hope she'll succeed. Do you know all this stuff we hear on the telly about the youngsters taking drugs or getting into trouble and all that? Well, I think it's only a few of them that give all the good kids a bad name. Last week, she said her mum and dad would like to meet us, and would we come for Sunday lunch at their house? Well, we spent a lovely afternoon with them. It turned out that Reggie and Alice's dad shared a few things in common. Oh, so they chatted around together while Alice and her mum, who's also called Alice by the way, and I talked about all sorts of things. 3 Alices. How about that for a coincidence? Amazing that 3 generations can all get on so well together. Oh, I'm so glad I came to live down here. It's like it was meant to be. Well, as we were leaving, Alice's dad said, well, don't forget where we are, and if you ever need anything, don't be afraid to ask. Well, I looked at Reggie and he smiled as I said, oh, thanks for asking. It's really kind of you. But don't worry about us. We'll be all right. Out of the blue, I got a phone call from my Anthony last night. He asked if he could come down to see me tomorrow because he'd got something to tell me. What? I said, are you in some sort of trouble? What's the matter? Oh, nothing serious, Mum, he said. I just need to talk to you to tell you something face to face. What's not so serious you can't tell your mother on the phone? I asked. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Don't worry. Don't worry, he says. That's what mothers are for. I called Reggie and told him, and he said, don't fret yourself, Alice. It's probably nothing at all. But give me a call when he arrives and I'll come up to be there if you want. Well, I was in a bit of a state, I can tell you. My Anthony arrived at about 11 o'clock, calm as you like. Well, I said, what's going on? Sit down, Mum. Well, I did. And then he told me that he and Sin had split up and they were getting a divorce. Apparently, she was having an affair with another bloke and gone off with him. Well, I got up and gave him a big hug. And then I started to cry. Why are you all upset? You never liked her anyway. Well, I didn't, I said. You've just given me the best news I've heard in ages. Then we laughed and we danced around the room. But I'll just make a nice cup of tea. Do you mind if Reggie joins us? Well, before you do, Mum, there's more. I've got a new lady in my life. She's called Jojo. Oh, so when do I get to see her? I asked. She's downstairs in the car. Can I bring her in to meet you? As he walked out the door, he stopped, looked at me and said, I ought to prepare you, Mum. Jojo is 2nd generation West Indian. She's black. Will you be all right with that? Well, yes, of course I will, love. Bring her in and let's have a look at her. Reggie came up just before my Anthony came back with Jojo, so I didn't have time to explain. You should have seen his face. It was a picture. When they came in, Jojo came towards me with a big, beautiful smile, gave me a big, heartfelt hug and said, "Hello, Mrs. Roberts. I'm so pleased to meet you at last. Do you mind if I call you Mum?" Well, that did it. What a lovely girl. We chatted for a while and she told me about herself and her family in Nottingham and how she met my auntie. Shortly afterwards we went out for lunch and Jojo was amazing, talking and laughing with everybody in the restaurant. What a character. I could see my auntie was besotted with her. It made me so happy to see them like that. After, when we came back and they had to leave, she took my hands into hers and asked me if I needed anything. I said, "Oh, no thanks, love. Nice of you to ask. Don't worry about me. I'll be all right." And you know what? I am.